An interview with the devil, the kingdom of heaven revealed. In a recent cross-dimensional rite into the netherworld, Lucy and Mars sat face to face with the devil, and parts of the conversation are recorded in this post. Some of the most salient points were asked about religion, end times, and from those selections, this is what Lucian deemed most important to pass along. It is a question and a mystery that has eluded theologians. And for better or worse, the devil gave some profoundly simple but chilling answers to the metaphysical meaning of existence as a human and the whereabouts of the kingdom of heaven. And here is the verbatim exchange. Tell me, since so many people ask, when Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is inside you, what exactly did he mean? Some have taken that to mean we are all made in the image of God, and therefore that is the veritable kingdom of heaven to be inherited if and when a person is allowed into the afterlife of heaven. What do you have to say on that subject? It was as simple and truthful as it was complex and painful. You see, he was absolutely truthful, but with a catch. Here is a mystery. The kingdom of heaven resides within all humans. You call it conscience, as in, let your conscience be your guide. Ah, but therein lies the dead and potentially damned fly in the ointment, so to speak. I suppose the devil is in the details, although I do not destroy anyone's conscience. Each human being either preserves or damns their conscience by their God-given free will. And if conscience is your guide, then what if your conscience is dead? Yes, I can raise the dead as well, but I cannot, nor can Jesus, resurrect the free will murder of a human conscience. That defies spiritual law on every level. Satan also knows this. And once you murder your conscience, you are in every respect damned and marked as an enemy of my Father. That is why the ills about to befall America and the world of woes await humanity. You see, to be human is to be little more than a spirit in a clay time capsule. But to be humane, to meet your Maker with a clean conscience because you loved your neighbor, because you loved and truly feared God and refused violence and hatred and greed and pride, is to enthrone God in your conscience. Instead, the vast majority of hypocritical and evil-hearted Christians have a dead and damned conscience, so they make war and kill their neighbors, which ensures their own damnation. It's the mark of the beast a person takes within themselves. Within their hand is a deed, and within their heart and head as an emotional act of cruelty and hatred. Jesus knew all this, and that is why so many Christians are simply the blind leading the blind, as he mentioned to his disciples. They are literally the dead and damned leading the dead and damned in a roundabout tour of religious hypocrisy and evil. We see them in ways you as a human cannot, but the angels can, demons can, Satan can. Raising a soul is easy. Resurrecting a dead conscience is, however, impossible. Neither Jesus, nor myself, nor Satan can do so. It would violate God's greatest gift, his personal treasure entrusted to every soul. How do you see them? We see them as clearly having a black shadow over their hearts that casts a stain upon their spirit. But the shadow is darkest in their hearts. They are not redeemable, and the salvation they seek as the dead. But because their conscience is dead, they are already well past redemption, as you humans call it. They have murdered their conscience. They have revolted and abandoned and defiled the kingdom of heaven within themselves, all by their lonesome and miserable selves. And there is no recovery, which humans know deep down is the dark truth, that they are already dead in trespasses and sins against God. I could take you to any church, and what you would see, were you able to see as the angels see, would be humans dressed in their Sunday best, posing and singing as alive, but in truth, they are merely painted and poorly dressed and perfumed corpses. The black hex is in their heart, planted within all by themselves. They have usurped the kingdom of heaven by enthroning themselves with the robes of their greed, their self-righteous pride, their hatred for their neighbors near and far, and their fear of discovery, all of which prompts them to further defile their conscience until it is well past dead and damned, play acting in a sham of salvation that is a sinister showcase of religious dogma, used as a mask to avoid facing the fact of their moral, spiritual, and pending physical death. This is how angels tell who to let pass to my Father, and which ones are judged and damned, because they have already judged and damned themselves by condemning their sacred citadel called conscience. The kingdom of conscience is the kingdom of heaven mentioned by Jesus. That's why none dare preach of it, for they would realize they are all dead and damned impostors. Some 90% plus of them, Christians, Muslims, Jews, religionists of every stripe really, atheists, yes, also, Satanists, of course. Looking at their spirit souls, the difference is not appreciable. Murdering conscience is the same across the religious or irreligious board. How does all this affect the current political and religious situation? It affects it in every way. My Father's wrath is about to peak. Patience is perhaps his great virtue, but not when a dead and a deadly evil church wishes to run a corrupted country like yours, America, where a minority of billionaires can buy your government to spread its vile and violent religious hatred in the name of Jesus, where Supreme Court justices are bought and sold like the rank cattle they are. They have no conscience. The stain is upon all their hearts. That is what angels see when they look upon them. Satan sees it too, and he's quick to exploit it. If humans could see past the veil, they'd be horrified at how many hearts are, what do you call it? Oh yes, hexed. That's appropriate. Yes, divinely hexed by practicing witchcraft upon themselves and murdering their conscience in the bargain, a deal the devil does not make. How does Satan exploit those marked with a death sentence upon their conscience? Satan carefully manipulates the politics and dogma of religion at every possible level. As an example, how many sermons could one expect to hear on conscience and the need to keep it pure, as in, blessed are the pure of heart and blessed are the peacemakers? Satan twists that into peacekeeping forces to lure Christians and others to their damnation by becoming warmongers. Do your duty for your country and damn yourself by vaunting your hatred for God all in one fell swoop. The heart is not physical. It is the conscience, God's greatest and most valuable gift, which is why he prohibits murder for humans, most especially including warfare against strangers. Better to die 1,000 deaths than murder your conscience. And Satan knows he can spread the virus by such ruses as inventing holy wars, which is a satanic oxymoron. There's nothing holy about war. I am war, and I rule the bloodshed throughout this galaxy, and I should know. But I war to kill and reap dead and rebellious souls such as Satan and those Christians and other religionists or atheists who follow him, not because I delight in it. I delight only in serving my Father. And I have brothers of my kind in distant galaxies I have yet to meet who do the same. I do not have a conscience. I was not created with one. And know this, it allows me to possess any body where the conscience is hexed, just as it allows Satan. I cannot be killed except by my Father, yet I can and do kill with the full blessing of my Father. I killed Lucifer and 4 of my brothers who rebelled after repeated attempts to usurp the Father's will. I take neither joy nor sorrow in the fact. I do not have the emotions you have. My love is devoted single-mindedly to my Father, his will and his wisdom. I desire nothing else. What else could tempt me from such an invaluable treasure? Don't theologians know this? It seems simple enough the way you explain it. Theologians are mostly composed of the walking dead and damned because their own consciences have ceased to serve God. Instead, they serve their morbid spiritual curiosity and seek mysteries that are concealed in plain sight. Oh, yes, of the many thousands of tomes of theological drivel, right now the only volumes in the grand theme of human conscience are contained in the works of Jeremy Taylor, a cleric in the Church of England penned between 1845 to 1853, contained as an eloquent exposition in volumes 9 and 10 if memory serves, and well over 1,100 pages in all on the subject. And he was one of those who was richly rewarded by my Father. I am overjoyed not for him, but because it makes my Father happy to see even 1 in a million come before him with a clean conscience and a pure heart. There are none such in America. Instead, it is a nest of vipers and spiritual parasites, more eager to impose a martial law in the name of a twisted satanic theocracy they call Christian nationalism, and thereby institute a barbaric jailhouse upon human freedoms by using politics to further their hatred of humanity and God, all in the name of Jesus or their political party leader of the elite who is desperately fleeing from justice himself. And this is who Christians are promoting, and not only promoting, but using violence, intimidation, lies, death threats, and all sorts of payoffs to chief justices of your supremely corrupt court, as you call it. America's on the brink of its own destruction, and Christianity, with its legions upon legions of the dead and damned, are marching it into oblivion. My concern is how it both grieves my father and offends him. Whether or not your country survives is of no particular interest to me. And what is Satan? Satan is the author of all this. Satan raises up dictators all around the world, and here in America you have both presidential candidates supporting dictators. Mr. Trump supports Putin and dictators worldwide. He wants to be one to avoid prison, and the majority of Christians want him to be exactly that, even though he is facing multiple criminal convictions, including sexual assaults, defamation, tax evasion, and fraud, along with political insurrection, which one can perhaps now call legitimate Christian fundamental values in this new age of Satan's evangelical church. On the other hand, Biden supports the Israeli dictator in his mad genocidal push to secure the West Bank and beyond. Neither dictator will relent because that is the nature of dictators. They are extremists who destroy, just as Hitler destroyed Germany and ruined a large part of the world. But with nuclear weapons, the game is now on a grand scale, is it not? And remember well, Satan can enter the mind and body of Trump or Biden or Putin or Netanyahu because their conscience is marked and sealed. One may appear as humble, religious, or evil, and it makes not one iota of difference if the conscience is dead. Angels and demons can see it clearly, as if the heart was illuminated in a dark neon light. Hence, Satan can jump from Trump to Putin and Biden and Netanyahu as he wills, because he knows the spiritual laws of a seared conscience, murdered by the free will of its human owner. The spirit is already dead, so possession is simple. All that walks and talks as human is not living. If you are spiritually dead, you can indeed be a pope, a president, a pastor, a billionaire, and as Jesus rightly said, what does it benefit a man to gain the world only to lose his soul? Christians in America want to elect a dictator to destroy America, a country God bequeathed to set an example of peace and hope and freedom. And Christians hate him for doing it because they believe they can rule better than God can govern, just as Satan also believes. Satan supports both because either candidate will be supporting a tyrant, but the Republican one is bent upon the destruction of freedom. And not coincidentally, all three, Trump, Netanyahu, and Putin, despise the threat of democracy and being brought to justice, either within their own country or as imposed by the United Nations. Is it possible that since Israel knew in advance of the Hamas attack, that it might have served Netanyahu to allow it in order to justify his push for the West Bank and avoid his own political downfall, using the United States to sanction his actions? This conversation has reached its end. It is not for me to reveal all that is known by the Father, either of the good or evil within a person's heart. And all too many the kingdom of heaven within has collapsed, the ruins of which shall burn in the fires of hell in the hereafter. Each human must look to themselves and search for any signs of spiritual life. Most of them will find only a vacant grave waiting to be filled by the mere formality of physical death. If they didn't listen to Jesus, they won't be swayed by the devil. My job is not to save, but destroy those whom the Father has deemed irredeemable. Nothing else concerns me. I'm speaking with you only because it is the will of my Father that this mystery be shared at this point in time where the death of America is upon you, assisted by those who claim to love God, but whose actions are evil and whose words are corrupted by lies. A storm is coming, death is brewing, damnation to the damned. It shall be served in bloodshed and the pain of the pit that follows judgment.